Hey, welcome! If you've ever looked at a block of code and thought it was a totally foreign language, well, you're not wrong. But the good news is, it is a language. And just like any language, all you need to do is learn the first few words to get started. So today, we're going to cover the absolute fundamentals of Python. Let's just dive right in.
So let's start with the biggest idea of all. Programming really just boils down to one simple question. How do we actually give a computer instructions? How do we tell this incredibly powerful, but also super literal, machine to do exactly what we want?
And the answer, it turns out, is pretty simple. You learn to speak its language. And for us, that language is going to be Python. Think of it like any other language. It's got its own vocabulary, its own grammar, and its own rules that we need to follow. Our goal here is to learn just enough to have our very first conversation with the computer.
All right, so where does that conversation even begin? It all starts with the single most essential building block in all of programming. It's something called a variable. Just think of it as the way we can store and label any piece of information that we want the computer to remember for us.
So what is a variable, really? The easiest way to picture it is just as a labeled box. It's this little container inside the computer's memory that we get to give a name. And inside that box, we can store pretty much any piece of information we want. A number, a word, you name it.
And actually creating one? It's incredibly straightforward. It's really just a simple three-step process. First, you name the box. We'll call it student score. Second, you use the equals sign to assign something to it. And third, you give it the value you want to store, like the number 88. And boom, that's it. You've just written your first piece of Python logic.
Now here's a quick but really important pro tip. Always give your variables clear descriptive names. In Python, the standard way to do this is with snake case, where all the words are lowercase and you just separate them with underscores. Trust me, this isn't just for looks. It makes your code so much easier for you and for anyone else to understand when you look at it again.
And here's a super crucial rule you've got to remember. Python is case sensitive. What that means is a variable named value with a lowercase v is completely different from one named value with a capital V. To Python, those are two totally separate things. If you mix them up, Python's going to have no idea what you're talking about, and it will give you an error.
Okay, so we know how to create one of these labeled boxes. Now let's talk about the kinds of things we can actually put inside of them. We're going to start with text, which in the programming world we call a string.
To make a string, you just put your text inside quotes. It's that simple. So here, we've made a variable called language, and we've stored the word Python inside it. But, just storing the text is only the beginning. The real fun starts with what we can do with it.
See, Python comes with all these awesome built-in tools called methods that let us play around with our data. For example, if we just add $upper to our language variable, we can instantly get a brand new version of the string that's in all capital letters. And, as you can probably guess, the $lower call method does the exact opposite. It converts the entire string to lowercase. These little tools are incredibly handy when you're trying to clean up text data and make it consistent.
You can also combine, or what we call concatenate strings together, using a simple plus sign. But you gotta be careful here. Python does exactly what you tell it. If you just add data and science, you'll get data science, all smushed together. To get that space in the middle, you have to literally add a third string that contains nothing but a single space.
Okay, so we've covered how to work with text. Now let's switch gears and look at the other fundamental type of data, numbers. In Python, you've basically got whole numbers, which we call integers, and then you have numbers with decimal points, and those are called floats. And as you'd probably expect, Python is a seriously powerful calculator. You've got all your standard operations like addition and subtraction, of course, but it also has more advanced tools. Using 2 asterisks lets you calculate exponents, so 2 asterisk 5 is 2 to the power of 5, and the percent sign, that's the modulus operator. It just gives you the remainder of a division. Super useful.
Python also has these really handy functions for numbers. Let's say you're working with a long decimal, like pi. 3.14159. Well, you can use the round function to easily shorten it, and you can even tell it exactly how many decimal places you want to keep.
Okay, this is the magic moment. We've talked about storing text, and we've talked about storing numbers. Now we're going to put it all together. We're going to see how we can combine them to create really meaningful, dynamic messages.
But this brings up a really important question, one that trips up pretty much every single person when they're starting out. What do you think happens if you try to use that plus sign to add a piece of text, like age, to a number, like 21?
Right? You get an error. specifically something called a type error. Python just gets confused because it doesn't know how to mathematically add a word to a number. The fix is pretty simple, though. We just have to tell Python to treat the number 21 as if it were text, and we do that by wrapping it in the string function. Now Python just sees two pieces of text, and it knows exactly how to stick them together.
Now that solution works perfectly fine, but there's a much more modern, more elegant, and way more readable way to do this. It's called an F-string, which stands for Formatted String Literal, and honestly, it's how pretty much all the pros do it today.
Just look at how clean and simple this is. By putting a little F right before the opening quote, you unlock this amazing ability to place your variables directly inside the string. All you have to do is wrap them in these curly braces. So if you had a name variable set to Alice and an age variable set to 23, this one line of code automatically creates that perfect sentence. No more fussing with plus signs or conversions. So here's the most important part. F-strings handle all of that data type conversion for you, completely behind the scenes. You can just drop numbers, text, whatever variables you have right into your string, and Python just figures it all out. It's powerful, it's incredibly easy to read, and it's just plain efficient.
And just like that, you've got it. You understand variables, strings, and numbers, and you know how to combine them all, the absolute core of Python. You've basically just learned the words and the grammar of this new language. So the only question left is, what's the very first sentence you're going to write with it?